Welcome to Success Story, the most useful podcast in the world. I'm your host, Scott D. Clary, and today I'm sitting down with Dr. Mark van Rijmenam. Dr. Rijmenam is a futurist, a tech strategist, a keynote speaker, and an author of 3 books on organizational leadership, management, and digital transformation. He speaks on the future of work. He writes on emerging technologies, blockchain, AI, machine learning, data, analytics, robotics, anything that can help optimize and improve how companies operate and compete in the years to come. We live in exponential times, and he works with organizations to help them adapt their organization to exponential futures so they don't get disrupted. He holds a PhD in management from the University of Technology in Sydney, Australia. He's spoken in over 20 countries. He has multiple best-selling books, and he's worked with notable companies such as Microsoft, Capgemini, and Fujitsu. We're going to speak about his origin story, new technology which is permeating organizations, as well as some insights that he has for companies that are looking to adopt and implement new strategies, new technologies, and new ideas. This episode is also graciously sponsored by 3 sponsors: BKA Content, the one-stop shop for all your content, copy, and writing needs; Gusto, the complete payroll and HR solution for small businesses; and Canva, democratizing design so that anyone can make everything to do with their business and their marketing collateral look absolutely beautiful. All 3 of these companies have special offers for Success Story podcast listeners, so stick around, listen to the episode, you'll get those offers exclusive to this audience. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Dr. Mark van Rijmenam.
The era of linear thinking is over, we are really coming out of the curve of the hockey stick when it comes to technologies, because all these technologies are converging at the moment.
All right, thanks again for joining me. Today, I am sitting down with Dr. Mark van Rijmenam. He is the digital speaker. He is an international keynote speaker on the future of work and the organization of tomorrow. He delivers virtual keynotes and webinars. He is the author of 3 best-selling management books on big data, blockchain, and AI. His latest book, The Organization of Tomorrow, details how AI, blockchain, and analytics turn your business into a data organization. He is the founder of dataflock.com. He recently founded maven.org, a decentralized reputation-based content network. He holds a PhD in management from the University of Technology in Sydney, where he researched big data, blockchain, and AI and how they're impacting businesses and organizations. He is also a publisher of a newsletter that is read by thousands of executives on the same topics. He's spoken globally to over hundreds of thousands of individuals, and he is a recognized speaker by the Professional Speaker Association of Holland, as well as being a member of the Global Speakers Federation, all on really interesting, really bleeding edge topics. Mark, thank you so much for sitting down. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to unpack how you got into some of these topics, because these are all very, very cutting edge and new. So walk me through your story.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Scott. It's a great pleasure to be on your show, and really looking forward to the conversation. So, yes, I'm really involved in bleeding edge technology, future technology, and how they impact organizations, how they impact society. And I'd like to think about, what do these new technologies do? How do they work? How do they apply? And how do they affect us as human beings, but also us as organizations and our society. And I don't have a very straightforward career path, because a long time ago I started in hospitality. I was part of the opening team that opened the first ski resort in the Middle East, so something completely different. But since about a decade now, I am really involved in emerging technologies. Big data, blockchain, and AI are for me the 3 main technologies that I look into, because they affect so many of the different other technologies. I really enjoy being in this space, because there's so much happening, and the world is changing so fast at the moment that it's very difficult for a lot of people, even for me. It's my job to stay up to date, but it's very difficult to stay up to date, because the world is changing so rapidly. But I really enjoy doing that. So and I help organizations understand these technologies, while at the same time applying these same technologies technologies within my own companies. So I call myself a future tech strategist. So not only talking about tech, but actually also applying tech.
And now that is an interesting career path. What, I guess, is it just a natural inclination towards tech and towards new and bleeding edge things? So I guess my question is, you were in hospitality at one point, but now you're the founder of several organizations. You've written books on the topic. So walk me through that transition in your career. Did you jump into entrepreneurship? Did you study and start doing consulting? Did you build an organization and then after that was successful, move into speaking? What was that like for you?
Sure. So after I did my degree in hospitality management, as I said, I moved to Dubai to live there for some time. After that, I did a master's degree in marketing management, and I ended up at the ING headquarters, a large Dutch bank, where I moved more and more into the marketing space. But I gave that up after a couple of years because I went on a big adventure with a friend of mine. So we circumnavigated Australia on a push bike in 100 days, which was an absolutely fantastic experience that I can recommend anyone to do. It's just 100 days of just eat, drink, sleep, and cycle, and nothing else, which was fantastic. But the thing is, after such an adventure, you don't really want to work for a boss anymore. So I tried starting my own company. I failed miserably, unfortunately. So I had to get a job. I ended up as a consultant, focused on strategy from an analytics perspective. I didn't really like it, so I got myself fired, and then I decided to start to give it another shot. And literally over the weekend, I thought, what shall I do? What can I do? I thought, big data is going to be a hot topic. Let's do something in big data. So I didn't have any understanding or any knowledge about big data. So I set up a website next day, taught myself about big data, started writing about it. And a month and a half later, I was invited as a keynote speaker, as the expert on big data, which to me was absolutely crazy. It was even a paid gig, and it was totally crazy for me. But it also showed to me, apparently there's something in this space. And there's a saying we have, in the land of the blind, the one eye is king. So I decided to really go down the rabbit hole and explore this fascinating industry. And from there on, it sort of moved really fast because I started writing articles. From the first articles came my first book, Think Bigger. Then in 2015, I got the opportunity to do a PhD at the University of Technology in Sydney. They gave me a few scholarships. Australia is not the most logical place to do a PhD on technology, but I just wanted to live there a bit more long term. So I moved to Australia, and after about 6 months in, I came into contact with blockchain, and I saw that this technology is such a fundamental technology that is going to have a drastic impact on society that I basically completely restarted my PhD, changed direction, and included blockchain and at the same time also AI in my PhD. During my PhD, I co-wrote a book on blockchain and how we can use it for social good, because I think that's how we can use technology from a positive perspective is very important to me. And at the end of my PhD, I turned my dissertation into a management book because dissertations are boring to read, and a management book is a bit easier to read. So I turned my dissertation into the management book, The Organization of Tomorrow. Same time, I had founded Dataflog, a content platform, and I think I've really found my sweet spot because I really, really enjoy being in this, this bleeding edge technology, and at the same time helping organizations, understand what's happening. So since that first keynote I gave in 2012, I've been doing keynotes until last year, obviously, until Corona hit. I used to fly all around the world, and that stopped. I haven't been in a plane for about a year and a half. It's absolutely crazy. I don't know what's happening, but it's totally crazy. But I decided to reinvent myself, and since I talk about digitalization, I decided to digitize myself, and that's where the digital speaker concept comes from, which basically I'm now available as an avatar. I'm available as a hologram or a combination of both, And I have recently started my own podcast, or what I call it the Tech Journal, where the digital speaker covers the digital world, literally from inside the digital world, because it's recorded in virtual reality. At the moment, just like a proof of concept, so not yet available in VR, but that's just a matter of time when I move to that, sure. Because I think it's a fascinating area to explore, and it really brings everything together of what I do and what I like.
I love the story. A lot of self-taught moments in there, and I appreciate that as well. Just because I think that that's something that is very inspirational for people that are trying to pivot in their careers. For example, you're not a developer or a coder by trade when you first graduated from university, not your PhD, but like earlier on, you went into hospitality. But you took advantage of the fact that there was probably not a lot of focus on like you said, in a month and a half of studying big data from a business perspective, you're able to educate some organizations. So it just goes to show you how much of a lack of proper understanding of emerging technology there is in businesses, in large businesses, where I think you probably worked with a lot of like coders, developers that were kind of in the startup space, but those are not the ones that were entrenched in large organizations. So I think a lot of your success was the fact that you had a business mind and you understood the application, and that's just a personality trait. They want to sort of explore that and figure out how it's going to impact organizations. And now you have like an actual brand around that, so it's incredible. But do you see companies starting to understand these trends? You said, what was this like? I guess when you first started doing this and sort of building an audience and a community around these bleeding edge tech in 2012. What did you say?
2012.
2012. Did you, obviously back then companies were, nobody's ever heard of really blockchain, use cases. AI was sort of like okay, maybe in the future. Do you see companies starting to understand these technologies more, use them more, apply them more in their day-to-day, or for many companies, is it still very theoretical?
I think it's the really top 5, the Fortune 500 companies. They are really doing big data, experimenting with blockchain, and doing with AI. But I think for the majority of the SMEs, I think there are around 70 million SMEs in the world. I think the majority is still doing what they've always been doing. Running a company, doing it. Most of them doing it really well, using some technology, but not really the bleeding edge technology that I'm focusing on. And when I started with exploring the world of big data in 2012, at that time I thought it's about 5 to 7 years before everyone is doing big data, and big data is completely normalized across all SMEs, and that's still definitely not the case. And the same is for blockchain and AI. It's I think it's still really early days. We see really cool examples of AI, by DeepMind, by OpenAI, GPT-3, and all the other, AlphaGo Zero, Mu Zero, whatever. Really cool technology being developed. But the actual, the SMEs actually implementing that, I think it's still relatively limited. And I think there are two reasons for that. I think first of all is a lack of understanding. What do these technologies mean, and how actually do you start with these technologies? Not only from the senior management within the company, but also everyone in the company. It's my vision that if you want to really digitally transform your organization, you need to have a shared understanding across the entire organization. So that means from the operational staff to middle management to senior management. Everyone needs to have the same understanding. What do these technologies mean, and what do they mean for us as an organization? And that understanding is often lacking. Some people within senior management or VP level or C level, they might have an understanding, but everyone in the business, from the call center agent to the warehouse operator, everyone needs to understand how this works. And that's a major challenge. And then I think the second problem is that if you really want to move into AI or blockchain, it also requires the right developers and the right resources. And yes, there are plenty of people doing really cool stuff, developing really cool technology, but still not enough for all those 70 million SMEs. So and they are very expensive for good reason, because they develop really cool things. And I think that's also a problem. So then you need to work with the software as a service or X as a service solutions. These take time to be developed as well. So I think that's sort of the challenge here that organizations face in really digitally transforming your organization.
I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, Gusto. Gusto is the easy online payroll and benefit solution set up for small businesses. So really, Gusto is payroll, benefits, onboarding, HR, all in one place. And it helps you accomplish all of that, but keep in mind, it is built for the business owner. It is a people-first platform. It is the most user-friendly tool that I've ever used. And this is really just to remove all the busy work, all the admin work away from running a business. So let me just list out what it takes care of, because it really is an all-in-one. So it does payroll, W-2s, 1099s, health benefits, 401ks, offer letters, onboarding checklists, software setup. They transition your entire business from whatever you're previously using to Gusto free of charge. They also have on-demand access to HR experts in the platform. You can get unlimited payrolls for a monthly price, automatically file all of your taxes, state and federal. When customers migrate to Gusto, they don't leave. 94% of their customers say that Gusto has dramatically streamlined all of their payroll headaches compared to whatever software they're using before. And 3 out of their 4 customers say that they can run their entire company's payroll in under 10 minutes, which is absolutely insane. And a huge savior for anybody that is trying to run a business themselves that doesn't have all the help in-house just yet. Or perhaps they do have the help and they're just not efficient or they're not quick, and you want to perhaps scale that person. That's what Gusto can do for you. And they're also offering a great discount for everybody who is a Success Story podcast listener. They're giving you 3 months free of the tool. So if you go to gusto.com/Scott, you get 3 months free of payroll solutions. There's no limitations on your account. So go to gusto.com/Scott, sign up, and you will remove all of the headache when it comes to running your business, and you can now work on your business as opposed to in your business. Gusto.com/Scott. I promise you, this will get rid of all the pain points, all the headache. This will be the best business decision you've ever made. All right, let's get back to the show. Now, so a couple points. So I want to. This is really good, and I want to break this down. So, the Organization of Tomorrow. That's your most recent book, and there's a couple different technologies that companies can use. So first, let's describe for me and for listeners because there's a wide variety of listeners. What is a digital transformation for an organization? What does that actually mean? And what's the message that you tell these C-levels executives? The reason why they have to digitally transform their company. So I think the reason why an organization needs to digitally transform your business is very simple. You want to remain competitive. There are too many examples of organizations, of incumbent organizations that didn't reinvent themselves or didn't update themselves and lost the game. A famous example being Kodak, who invented digital photography and then failed to do anything with it. So as an organization, you need to continuously disrupt yourself, reinvent yourself, just like I did. As a small speaker organization, you need to continue to reinvent yourself, and in order to do that, in the book I describe a digital transformation framework of how you can digitally transform your organization, which I think considers of 4 steps: datafying, distributing, analyzing, and automating. So to expand it a little bit, first, of course, you need to datafy your organization, because without data, you can't do any, you can't benefit from the exponential technologies that we have. So you need to collect data in all your processes, in all your customer touch points, whether that is using connected sensors or IoT devices to understand what's going on, or to other way to
collect the data that you need. Once you have collected the data, you need to start to distribute the data, either using the cloud, so that everyone within the organization has access to it, and becomes you have sort of a data lake where data doesn't live in silos anymore, but is available to anyone within the business. Or you can use blockchain if you want to collaborate with your industry peers in a more effective and efficient way. For example, in supply chains, where we can get rid of all the paper trail, all the paperwork, if we move to blockchain.
And that is what. Oh, sorry, because you said there was 4. Sorry, I think I cut.
That's okay.
I was like, there's 2 more. You can't leave us hanging.
So the third step is indeed then to analyze your data, because it's nice to datafy your business, to distribute the data, but you also need to do something with that data. So you can use the descriptive, predictive, or prescriptive analytics to do something with this data. And the way I always explain this to organizations is descriptive analytics is like business intelligence. It's like the rear view mirror in your car. It helps you understand what has happened from 1 second ago to 10 years ago. But if you drive your car by simply looking in your rear view mirror, you are certainly going to crash. So you need predictive analytics, which is your car's navigation system that tells you the most optimal route based on various variables and various scenarios. So you use all kinds of data to predict scenarios, and then you make decisions yourself. And then the final phase of understanding your business is prescriptive analytics, which is, your car is basically a self-driving car driving you autonomously to your destination. Using all kinds of data that you analyze, you build scenarios, and then the system selects the best scenarios autonomously. So that really helps you already to improve your organization, to understand, what's happening in your environment, and to sense those opportunities and to seize them. Then the final phase in digitally transforming your business is to automate that. You have to automate the various steps to use artificial intelligence, or to use smart contracts when you talk about blockchain, to create more human to machine collaboration, as I call it, where you can automate the autonomous task, the monotonous task, where you can automate a lot of the work using AI to make your organization more effective and efficient. So 4 steps, which I think help organizations understand in digitally transforming their organizations, and the reason that they need to do that is you want to remain competitive, because there are always new organizations, startups who have this ingrained in their DNA, and are therefore a lot very competitive and a very difficult opponent to win from.
Definitely, and I think that that's something that that was sort of I was interested in this conversation about digital transformation, because I am. The way you speak about digital transformation, I'm 100% behind, and I believe that is the way that companies have to act, and the way that companies have to modernize and future-proof. But I do not see companies really taking this as seriously as I think some of them should. I feel like so if we look at the world of blockchain, for example, probably because it's been very adopted by the end consumer versus AI or big data, which is very much in terms of a business application. And when I say blockchain, obviously you have the business applications like smart contracts and whatnot, which I think are even less so adopted and understood than, for example, decentralized finance or DeFi, because everybody and their mother is now trying to trade crypto and make money, right? So even in blockchain, which is a widely used application, I still don't see a ton of businesses, for example, using smart contracts in the way that they transfer data between different organizations and whatnot. And I see companies, I do see companies like IBM that's trying to do things, and I'm sure like Oracle, and like these really, you said, like large Fortune 500. But how do we take legacy Fortune 500 or Fortune 100, or even just like you said, like SMEs, and like for everybody who's listening, SMEs, small, medium enterprise, like smaller businesses. So how do we get these people to get on board? Or is it just a matter of it's the culture of the organization and it's the executive team of the organization that has to be into it? And if they're not, they're probably going to go the way of the Kodak, or the way of the Blockbuster, or the way of the taxis, or any other company has been. It's been uprooted.
I think if you as an organization you don't reinvent yourself, you don't start to digitally transform your business, you are going to be out in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, depending on your industry. Mm-hmm. So you will have to. To answer your question regarding blockchain, it's blockchain is a very nascent technology still, and I always compare it to like the early days of the internet, it is not plug and play technology yet. It's difficult, and apart from the technology being difficult, it's also from an organizational perspective difficult, because as an organization you need to collaborate with your industry partners. You need to come to terms in what kind of blockchain you're going to use, what kind of standards, what kind of all these things that you need to get a shared understanding of with your supply chain partners. That takes time. That's from a human perspective. We don't like change. It's very difficult to change. It's very difficult to get everyone aligned. So I think that's one of the reasons why it takes so long. So apart from the technology still being under development, and still a lot of the blockchain ecosystem is a lot of the technology still need to be developed, or is really early stage and is not production ready yet. But at the same time, organizations they need to work differently and they need to change. And as I said, you as humans we don't like change, so that's why I think it takes so long to do so. But it is, for me, it is something that it's obvious that we're going into this direction. Technology you can't stop, and the technological advancements are only going faster, and we are in the next 5 to 10 years, when the future of work has arrived, so to say, I do think that organizations will look fundamentally different than today.
Do you have any examples top of mind of organizations that are undergoing a proper digital transformation now, that you look to and you're like, this is the model that we should look at?
Well, one example that I always use, because I think it's a fascinating example, is a German company called Käse Kompressors. Very traditional product company, building these really huge air ventilation products for like large factories, warehouses, etc. If there's one company who you wouldn't expect to digitally transform themselves, it's such a company. But they did, and they used to sell these large machines for a lot of money. They would install it, and then they would leave. And if it would break down, you would give them a call. They would come, they would fix it, and would send you an invoice for fixing it. Nowadays, what they do is they install these machines for free, and they sell air as a service. Literally. So you pay per cubic meter air you consume. And they use all kinds of predictive analytics to predict, when the machine is about to break down, and then they send someone to fix it before it breaks down. Because obviously, if it breaks down, it costs the company money. So it's a completely different way of thinking, a completely different perspective. And they have managed. They are one of the few companies in the world that make money by selling air, and which I think is a fascinating example.
That is a really fascinating example. And how do you know how they're doing as an organization? Is this a concept that's catching on? Like, are they successful in this setup?
I think they are. They are a 100-year-old traditional German company, and they're surviving, and I think they're actually thriving by taking this different approach. And that's what I always tell organizations as well. You need to achieve this different perspective, or also again, beautiful, one of the most beautiful German words. You need to achieve this Gestalt shift within your organization, and the Gestalt shift, for those who wonder what it is. it's this famous image for a duck and a rabbit. And you either see a duck or you see a rabbit, but you can't see them both at once. You can switch between them, and that's called a gestalt shift, where you move from one perspective to another. I think that's the interesting thing that organizations need to achieve. You need to achieve this gestalt shift from, you are from a product company to a data organization, where you are like, you look differently at how you service your customers, and you have the stakeholder model instead of a shareholder model. And if you do that, if you take care of your customers, I always say, then your customers will take care of your shareholders.
Interesting. Okay, I like that perspective as well. So there's a few themes that I see that are sort of recurring. So data. So moving from a product-oriented organization into a data organization, and data is not just, by your definition, like big data. It's using data points to better serve your customer. So so I guess that is technically the definition of big data. It's understanding all the data points and then building that into your process. But also, I guess with blockchain or AI or even just understanding your market better, right? You're a data-driven organization. The traditional organization, the shareholder-oriented organization, that's a difficult thing to move away from. I don't know personally any examples of companies that have moved away from a shareholder-focused organization to a stakeholder-focused organization. It seems like it's a scary thing for a company to do, because at the end of the day, who owns the company? Who pays the bills? How would a company approach that? And that's a heavy topic, and that's a tough question. So I'm just curious if you have like an idea of how a company could start to make that move and validate that serving their customers better, backing that with data, could allow them to sort of slowly remove that grip that a shareholder would have on how they do business for the past 10, 20, 30 years, because that is probably what stops companies from truly changing. It's who owns them. I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, Ladder. A little bit of context before I speak about Ladder. Ladder offers life insurance. But the reason why I wanted to work with them is because I personally am a huge advocate of life insurance. And the reason being, the past 2 years with COVID, a lot of people have lost loved ones. Fortunately, I haven't lost anybody in the past 2 years, but I have lost people, friends, far before their time, years ago. And it usually happens that when somebody younger passes away, when they're just starting their life or they're just starting their family, they aren't properly set up. They don't have coverage. And when they pass, all the costs are passed on to their family. And I've seen that stress that falls onto loved ones, spouses, family. It's just a horrible time, and the added financial stress is not worth it. And it's not something that I would ever wish on anybody who's already dealing with the loss of a loved one. And it just so happens that when it happens unexpectedly for a younger individual, there's a better chance that they haven't looked into life insurance yet. So I'm a big advocate of life insurance in general, but I'm very happy with what Ladder is doing, because they are basically removing any friction in how you can apply and get life insurance. So they are all digital. So no doctors, no needles, no sign up, no paperwork. You go online, you submit your information, you can get approved. They have an algorithm that will approve you for up to $3 million without speaking to anybody. If you want to speak to somebody, you can. They have that option, but this is meant to be as frictionless as possible. And they also make it very user-friendly, consumer-friendly. So the fee they quote you, that's the fee, no fees, cancel anytime. Of course, with life insurance, the earlier you sign up, the cheaper it's going to be, and you can carry that rate through until forever. So they've really done it well, and they've modernized the process of purchasing life insurance. So I would recommend that everybody, they set up a link for everybody who's listening to this podcast. I would recommend and advocate that everybody goes and checks out Ladder. They're a great sponsor, but I am just an advocate for having life insurance. So I think that this is something that you should, it behooves you to start to look into it. If you want to get a quote, go to ladder.com/success story. So that is ladder.com/success story. And you can get instantly approved. If you just want to start to investigate, I think that's a great idea. If you want to purchase, you can also, like I said, get approved, purchased for up to $3 million online in about 3 minutes without talking to anybody. So I would definitely recommend you go check them out, and do yourself and do your family a favor and set yourself up. God forbid something happens. You just don't want to have that stress and that burden on your family. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, but I think it would be in the shareholders' best own interest to move from a shareholder model to a stakeholder model, because I think a shareholder model is by definition a short-term model, short-term focused model, and long-term is generally always better. It takes a bit longer, but in generally, long-term approach, long-term perspective works way better than a short-term perspective. And there's a company called Unilever. Maybe you've heard of it. It's one of the largest FMCG companies in the world, I think. And as far as I know, they have this stakeholder model, where they're very much focused on sustainability, very much focused on caring for the planet, caring for the customers, caring for their employees, in a way that I think many organizations can learn from, and. I have as I mentioned at the start, I have a hospitality background, and if there's one thing that you learn from hospitality is that you have to take care of your guests, because if you don't offer the best service for your guests just go away. They go to a different hotel, different restaurant, or whatsoever. You can have a restaurant and you can have crappy food, but if you have an amazing waiter or waitress, you can still have a really, really good evening, and you can still come back. If it's the other way around, you certainly won't come back to that restaurant, because a waiter or waitress can really ruin your evening, even though the food might be fantastic. So you really need to have this thinking of how can I take care of my customers? How can I offer the best product or service for that? And once you start doing that, you will look differently at your employees. How can I make sure that my employees are happy? Because if my employees are happy, then they will do their best for the customers. What do they need? What kind of data do they need? What kind of insights do they need for them to make the decision? Again, the comparison to the hospitality industry, especially the high end industry. A lot of the operational staff, they have decision-making power to just fix a problem. Don't care how you do it, but just make sure that the guest is happy. And if you bring that to other organizations where you use data to lower the decision-making power from the executive level to anyone who is facing the customer or anyone within the organization that needs to make a decision, and give them the full transparency to make that decision, then I think you will have a much better outcome than when you don't do that. So data can really help you give this transparency, give this decision-making capability to anyone within the organization, so that they can then make the best decision, which is in the best interest for the customer, and therefore automatically for the organization.
I love that. I love that's so. The ability to use data properly in an organization, it permeates all aspects of how the organization runs, and I see that's really where the future of an organization lies. I have some questions about the future of work as well, but I'm curious, when you just one more question on this topic. When you speak to all these managers and these directors and these executives, do you know what stage are they at in their organization? Are they just doing this as an introduction in the past 2 years, let's say? Are they doing this as an introduction into all of these topics, or are they working on a project? Are they already incorporating some of these ideas into their organization, or is this net new for them?
That really depends. When I come into an organization for a keynote or a session or a workshop or whatsoever, I focus really on the starting point of your digital transformation process. As I said, this shared achieving the shared understanding within the business, because normally, what often happens is one department might think one way, and the other department might think totally different way. And if these are not aligned, then it becomes very difficult to digitally transform your organization. So I am really focused on that area. So when I talk to organizations, it is trying to do that. But it's the other day I was talking to an organization, And I actually got the request, don't scare our employees when you talk about AI, because they might get scared that they would lose their jobs, which is a very relevant fear that employees have, and that the employers need to go about in the right way. Because again, if employees fear that they are losing their jobs, they are certainly not going to help you in your digital transformation process. But there are also different levels of understanding. You can have a detailed understanding of how AI works and how it impacts your business, or a more superficial level, which often can be sufficient already to move forward. It really depends on how far you want to go, how soon you want to change your organization to what kind of level of understanding you require, basically.
Very good. And I guess, sorry, I as you say more as you speak more and you bring up more points, I get more ideas about things that I want to talk to you about. Sorry. One thing that I did want to ask you about, you tweeted, actually I think it's your pinned tweet. And I'm just curious, I think I understand what it means, but I want you to explain it for me as well, because I thought it was an interesting statement. Digitalism will mark the end of liberalism and be the first truly global political doctrine, a story where governments, companies, and citizens battle for data. What does that mean exactly?
Sure. So first, for those who are going to my Twitter feed now, I changed my pin today, so I'll have to search it. But I can share you the link for the speaker notes. But it's digitalism is a new theory that I've been developing for about a year now, and it's a way where I think everything is being digitized at the moment. The entire planet, everything that we do, but data comes with tremendous power. As we know from the large tech companies, the Googles, the Facebook of these worlds. But they also should come, and that's what I always say, with great responsibility of how to deal with that. And what I envision, what I foresee happening is, liberalism is nearing its end. And I'm not the only one who says that. Yuval Noah Harari also states that because of big data, because of AI, liberalism is nearing its ending. And we see this happening all over the place. Free competition, does it really still exist? Facebook, the Googles of this world, they buy every company, every startup that's out there. So does it really still exist? Free will, does that still exist? We have recommendation algorithms that determine everything for us. So liberalism is running into a few problems at the moment. But at the same time, I see that a lot of organizations and governments understand the power that data brings. So what I see is that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, the struggle within society is the struggle, the fight around data. Who owns this data and who can do something with this data? And on the one hand, we have the governments and the corporations, and on the other hand, we have the citizens, us, you and me. Both parties have different perspectives, have different objectives, and have different, what they require. And so digitalism is this fight around, this most important resource ever found or created by humans. And it can basically go in three directions. Digitalism has three streams. The first one is state digitalism, which basically means that the government uses data to enslave its citizens. And this is something we see happening in China. It's mass surveillance. In Xinjiang, they have developed an AI panopticon where everyone, the state knows everything about its citizens that they do. Now, especially with COVID-19, they have QR codes to leave the house, to enter a building. They scan everything, your temperature. They have a social credit score. So they really use data to enslave their citizens. That's not a society I would like to live in.
No, definitely not. No.
Then you have a second stream, which is neo-digitalism, which is basically corporate surveillance, and where we have these large corporate organizations that have become so incredibly powerful that the governments, they can't really do anything anymore. We see this happening with 2018 in the U.S. Senate, where the senators asked Mark Zuckerberg basically how the internet worked, and those are the people who are who are making the legislation for the citizens. Well, good luck with that. That's not going to happen. Yeah. And that's not only in the U.S. US, or it's also happening in the Netherlands, where the legislators have a very limited understanding of what technology means and how technology is impacting organizations. But the result is that these tech companies are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. They are so incredibly powerful, and they basically use the data to enslave the customers for the shareholders. Again, that's not a society I would like to live in. And then the final phase is what I call modern digitalism, which I think is the most positive approach to data. And we use data to empower the citizens. So we have, ethical use of AI. We have, self-sovereign identities. We have full control over your data, full secure data, privacy, a concept called anonymous accountability. So you can be anonymous, but you're still being accountable for whatever you do. And that's sort of what I see happening in Europe. Europe came up with the GDPR. They have AI regulations. They came up with this risk-based approach to AI, where they said, we don't want facial recognition in Europe. We don't want social credit scores in Europe, and all other AI needs to be regulated very, very well. And so that's sort of the theory of digitalism. It's still under development. I'm still trying to figure out how this works. But I think it's these three streams that will take over the entire world. And depending on in which society you live, this is either something to look forward to or something to be really, really afraid of.
I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, Canva. Now, as you all know, I'm a doer. If I want to get something done, I try and do it myself, which has its own set of issues in terms of me scaling. But one thing that I was never good at was design. I was never good at creating graphics, creating marketing collateral. I always needed the help of a designer until I started using Canva. And I have been a constant user of Canva for the past, 3 years, 4 years. It's been a while. And democratizing design, allowing anybody with virtually zero skill to create incredible looking things, has allowed me to create better websites, better social media, better white papers, better pitch decks, better quotes. It has literally allowed me, an individual with virtually zero design capability, to create pieces of work, content, whatever it may be, that rivals what I could get out of a designer for hundreds or if not thousands of dollars and significant time invested. Canva is a game changer when it comes to design. And it really is the one-stop shop for you to be able to design things like a pro. It boosts your productivity immensely. It has all of the premium photos, audio, video, anything you want to incorporate in your design, all those elements that you normally pay for, it's included in a low monthly fee. And regardless of whether or not it's making an Instagram story or putting together a presentation for work, it has pre-made templates that you can use. And that's my favorite part about it, because it gives you inspiration that you can draw on with professionally designed pre-made templates for almost any graphic design project you can possibly think of. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a marketer, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a founder, and you're just trying to scale yourself, scale your team, or just give your team great tools so that they can get more done in less time, Canva is really something you should check out. And they put together a special offer for all Success Story podcast listeners. Normally, you get a very short free trial of Canva Pro, which includes everything I just mentioned. But they're letting you try it free for 45 days. So that's an extended trial that is only available to Success Story podcast listeners. And if you want to take advantage of this, go to canva.me/successstory. That is canva.me/successstory. And you can get 45 days of free Canva Pro. No commitment required. Try it out. Play around with all the features. You'll thank me later. All right, let's get back to the show. What do you think the end result, because you already are seeing this start to manifest in a certain direction in Europe. Like you mentioned before, those Senate hearings, obviously it showed a lack of true understanding of technology, but obviously that will also change with time as well, right? There are applications that are focused on that positive digitalism in North America, and as legislators move out and new ones move in with a better understanding of technology, the sentiment will also change. What do you think the end result will be in North America? Do you think it will model Europe, or do you think it will be its own form?
I hope so. I hope it will model Europe, also for US citizens. But don't forget, this hearing that I'm referring to was in 2018, when the internet is already 25 years old.
That's very true.
And it took 25 years to figure out how the internet worked. Well, to be explained how the internet works. But I think it's also a generational challenge here, because the old generation is still in power, and they are from an era where we didn't have any internet, where we didn't have mobile phones whatsoever. Now we are slowly moving into the generation that is in power that has seen both. I am from the generation. I remember very well an era where we didn't have mobile phones, where we had to call up our friends, to make an appointment, and we would actually be there at the time that we agreed upon, because otherwise there was no way to connect to each other. But then, in the next 10 to 20 years, it will be the Generation Z, I think they are called, in the latest generation, which have grown up with TikTok. They have grown up with Facebook, Google, VR, AI. So they are digital natives, and they I think they have a different approach to digitalization. I hope, and I think what you see happening as well, is that Generation Z is much more aware of that, also of the powers that digitalization brings, but also the responsibilities that come with it. So for America, I think there's still hope. For China, I'm a bit more worried, because the government is so powerful.
That's fair. And I think that's, I think China is its own beast in how they manage this, and I don't think that's really what the Western world is trying to focus on in terms of where the ideal digital society ends up. I don't think that China would be the model. I think that Europe is a good model. There's probably Europe is probably leading the way in terms of a lot of this. Actually, they're very strict with data, very, very strict. And I'm not sure why that part of the world decided to be so strict with data, but it seems like they're very just forward thinking in how they try and control and combat any sort of negativity that comes with collecting data. I don't know if you have a historical idea as to why, but I see it.
I think that the history definitely plays a role here. Germany, of course, in the Second World War, I think Germany has one of the most strict privacy legislation in the world because of the war. Because of the Stasi, that knew everything about what was going on in East Germany. So I think that definitely plays a role here. And Germany is a powerful nation within Europe, and I think that's what's being reflected. But I think it's a good thing that we have this. Europe is still a very economic power. 500 million rich consumers. So therefore, you see that this GDPR, for example, has an effect on the entire world, which is good.
No, I think it's just very interesting to look at history and see how it impacts it, and I think that Germany is a great example. That is very interesting. Okay, so I guess we've gone through data, we've gone through AI, we've gone through blockchain, and I guess the last thing that we sort of touched on in a few different ways was the future of work, and you're a living example of the future of work in the way that you've digitized yourself and you're putting yourself out there in a avatar hologram format. Just a few thoughts from you. I know all these topics are so great, and honestly we could probably do like one show on every one of these topics and go really deep on it. But you're a wealth of knowledge in all these different things. So I just wanted to pick your brain on all these different things. So future of work, what are some thoughts on the future of work post-pandemic? What do we think work looks like going forward? What's changed? What's changed because of the pandemic? What's changed regardless of the pandemic? Just some thoughts on that.
So I think the pandemic is sort of a blessing in disguise. No matter how extremely terrible it is, and all the people who died, but if there's one silver lining to this terrible crisis, is that it really kickstarted digital transformation across the world. If I every year in December I write a trend prediction of what I think the trends will be for the next year, and if I had written in 2019 that half a year later 99% of the organizations would work remotely, people would have called me totally crazy. But this is what happened, and I think that is one of the good things that came out of this crisis, that people found out, hey, look, actually we can work from home, we can work remotely, and there are really cool technologies out there. And of course, I can only I see it predominantly from my perspective in the Netherlands and Europe, and in here in the Netherlands, we have here a perfect infrastructure. So the internet never went down, and everyone still had 100 meg, 200 megabytes download speed. So Zoom calls, Google Hangouts, they all work perfectly. I think that really helped, but it also showed that if organizations really need to change, then it seems so that they can change, and we should use this understanding to continuously change the organizations also post pandemic, and start to incorporating digital technologies for the benefit of the customer, for the benefit of the citizen, to do so. And there's no excuse anymore that you can't do this, because we have proven to ourselves that we can. So I think that's
been uncomfortable, but yeah.
It's been very uncomfortable, but we have managed to do so, and I think from now on, now it's a way forward, onwards and upwards, of how to use and embrace these technologies more and more to really create the organization of tomorrow, which, as I mentioned, is a data organization that's there for its stakeholders and society.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap up, because most people don't listen longer than an hour. So I'll ask some rapid fire career questions that based on your experience, just to give some insights to some people that are earlier on in their career that want to learn from the brand you've built, the community you've built. Is there anything? I'll go into that line of questioning in a moment. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up or discuss that we didn't get into today?
No, I think we covered most of it that I wanted to share.
Did a good job.
I think it's one thing that I want to do give to listeners is we are actually living in exponential times. The era of linear thinking is over, and we are really coming out of the curve of the hockey stick when it comes to technologies, because all these technologies are converging at the moment, and that is what's going to have this massive impact. And that's why I think the 2020s will be one of the most important decade of humanity, because how are we going to use these technologies, how are we going to apply these technologies to all the massive problems that we face, such as climate change, such as the pandemic. We can use these technologies to counter these. So it's important as an organization, as a business owner, as a manager, as an employee. We have reached the era of exponential thinking, of exponential change, and you should be aware of that and prepare yourself for that.
Very good. Okay, so over your career, what was your biggest challenge in your personal career, and how did you overcome that?
Well, I think my biggest challenge was, when the pandemic hit. I had built my company. I had, was in a nice, comfortable position, and overnight, boom, it was gone. And not only my speaking business, also my content platform, just advertising revenue just drained. So I was hit on two folds. But then I think there are two things you can do. You can cry in a corner and be really sad, or you can get up and face the new reality and try to reinvent yourself. And that's what I did. And that gives me so much energy now. But it has been quite difficult, so to say.
True, but it's a good lesson as well that you did it successfully. What would be one lesson that you would tell your younger self?
That's a good question. I think you should just really try to be adaptive and be flexible. I've been flexible. I think I could have been more flexible and adaptive in the early start of my career. Again, also for me, when I was hit with the pandemic, that was when I really changed the things around. But I think adaptability is becoming one of the most important career traits or skills that you need, because careers are going to change much faster than they have ever done. So you need to be able to change. You need to be able to be flexible and to think in new ways.
Good. Pick one person who had a major impact on your life. Who is that person, and what did they teach you?
Well, I don't know him personally, but I have a lot of respect for Elon Musk by what he does, on how he has built his companies, and how he has this stakeholder model. What he's doing with at the moment in the crypto space is a different story, but how he's building SpaceX and Tesla and really has this long-term vision that he starts digging and start building, is something that I take away, and that I try to do as well.
Very good. And a book or podcast recommendation that people should go check out, besides your own. I'll plug your book in the show notes. something else that you've listened to or read.
I like the podcast Futurist very much, by Trond Onheim, I think, and he discusses with a lot of different people on different technologies and really goes into depth. So it's about the future. It's about bleeding edge technology. So that's I have to like that.
Yeah, it's very good. Good recommendation. I haven't had that recommendation before on this show, so that's good. And then most importantly, what does success mean to you?
Success to me means having fun in what you're doing. I think you need to, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're happy, and success comes by itself. I think too many people don't enjoy their work or whatever they do, and I think if you don't enjoy, you should change. So for me, success is being happy where I am and enjoying what I do.
Very good. And then most importantly, how do people get in touch with you, your social, website, email, whatever you want to give?
Sure. So I think the easiest ways is through LinkedIn or Twitter. Twitter handle is @van Rijmenam, which might be a bit difficult for the listeners. But you can also go to thedigitalspeaker.com, which is easier, or dataflog.com, where you can find me, or just a Google search. I'm pretty much out there.
It is a unique name. So for Twitter, it's @VANRIGMENAM. And I'm not going to pronounce it again, but that's his Twitter handle.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. All right. That's perfect. That's all I got, Mark. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's been a pleasure.